across this title, you must be wondering, right? Like geotagging, we know it. Like we go to places, we tag ourselves at that places. What more could there be with respect to geotags? Like it's just that, right? Tagging people on social media at a particular place. That's all about geotagging. What more could we do about it? So these kinds of questions might have been running around people who came across this workshop. So today here we are to answer what are the wide applications of geotagging to take you beyond the metadata geotagging of latitudes and longitudes and showing you its true potential, its history, and what it is actually capable of. So myself, I'm Tejas from SSERD, joined by Sneha and Aviraj. Today we'll be exploring about geotagging and its applications. We'll be talking about how this concept of geotagging evolved through the history, and at this point, how we are trying to make use of the data from the global GPS systems and other navigation systems through the constellation of satellites in order to achieve the true potential of geotagging. So without further delay, let's start looking into our session. Let's dive into our session. So the first question that pops up is, what is geotagging? So most of you would be knowing what geotagging is. It's basically trying to insert metadata regarding a geographical information into a picture or an audio or a video or a map. So most of you would have used Google Maps. Most of you would have come across pictures that are tagged with a particular place, whether it might be on Facebook or on Instagram, or even the pictures that you download from the internet. When you right click on it and check them for their properties, you find there are geographical tags associated with those images. So basically geotagging, the geotags, they are nothing but metadatas that are associated with respect to geographical information of a particular file. So where are they used? As I mentioned earlier, they're widely, as all of you know, they're widely used in social media platforms. Other than that, we have geotags being extensively used in marketing areas right now. We have them, being used in navigation systems, and also they're also being used for monitoring and coming up with the concepts called as geoblogging and geofencing. So we'll be exploring about all these concepts today. And we'll also be stressing about how are geotags used in social media and how it's beneficial and what are all the privacy issues that we face when we start using geotags in social medias. And also we'll be having a training session on how to add a missing place on Google Map. So basically Google Map is the resort that we go into, that like it's kind of the last resort that we go into to search for a particular place or to get reviews about a particular place. So we find that most of the times the new places that keep popping in around our neighborhoods, they're not reflected there on the Google Maps as soon as they come up. So in order to make the Google Map services better, they have enabled what is called as the users entering these geotag data. So it is available for us to share the places that we find interesting with the public in the public domain. So we'll be demonstrating how to use geotag options in Google Maps and enter the places of importance and change the names of places that are wrongly named on the Google Maps as well. So before we get into what geotags are, let's look into the history of geotags. So when we turn into the pages of history, so why do we need geotags? Geotags are nothing but they are the metadata. As I pointed it out earlier, they are metadata to identify a particular spot. So what do we need? What are the informations that we need in order to identify a particular spot? So first thing that we need is the spot, and the second thing that we need is a reference. So when I talk about let's say I have a water bottle here with me. So this water bottle is at a distance of so and so a particular wall or an object. So I'm using a comparison and stating out a number, a quantity, stating that it is at a distance of so and so from a particular reference. So first thing that we need is an object. Second thing that we need is a reference. And the third thing is that how are these two related? So we have the object, we have the reference, and the relation between these two. So, but when it comes to, you all must be knowing, so like when one of the person, like if you would have experience wherein people come and ask you address and you try to tell them, direct them towards a particular point by telling them landmarks and asking them to follow these landmarks, right? So these landmarks serve as the references. So they are kind of geotags that are leading you towards your destination. So basically, if we talk about India, we talk about Taj Mahal. So Taj Mahal kind of acts like a geotag. So whenever a person thinks about Taj Mahal, he thinks about India. So similarly, when we think about the Statue of Liberty, our head, directly thinks about the Statue of Liberty there in US, and also the Leaning Tower. The very next thing that comes into our head is the city of Pisa. So similarly, we associate these landmarks or these tags with particular locations. So this concept of associating, looking in for a particular reference to identify a particular place is not new. This concept is in existence from a very long time. So the very crude foundation for these geotags comes from the early city plannings made by the ancient civilizations. So on the screen now you see that it is the survey map of the Mesopotamian city. One of the Mesopotamian city is being displayed here on this particular clay tablet. You see that there are roads that are being mapped. There are few centers of which are of importance that are being named on this particular clay tab. So this is a city plan map, but still the locations which we get to see in our real life, it is being transferred into a document to say that I have a particular spot here, and at so and so distance from this particular spot, I have another spot here. So the angles and the relations between all these spots are being clearly mentioned. So a map is kind of an equipment that is used to locate these locations using their names, the labels, the geotags. So there are other civilizations as well. The ancient Egyptian civilization, they are also known for coming up with techniques to use stars and the pyramids of the Great Pyramids to mark the lands, because every year there used to be a great flood that used to occur in the River Nile. So as Egypt is within the Sahara Desert region, the only fertile region which is very good for cropping is the banks of River Nile. So when the farmers used to have their own lands in a particular year, and the great flood used to come, and it used to wipe away all these markings. All the markings of the fields used to go away. So in order to reassign the lands which used to belong to one particular person, they had to remeasure those distances again and again. So in order to do so, they needed a particular reference. So they used these pyramids and other stellar locations, like star patterns in the skies, to measure the angles and distances, and they started building maps. And a particular map developed. It's called as the Turin Papyrus maps, one of the earliest maps being written on paper-like material. The papyrus thing is being displayed here. So they used to maintain documents to state that these are the sectors that belong to so and so person, and it is at a distance of let's say some 6 yards or 7 yards or 10 yards. It stretches so much distance from this particular reference. So they used to do all these kinds of surveys and mapping in order to make sure that the geo data is not lost. So this particular plot of land that we are looking into, it belongs to this person, and he's responsible for cultivating crops in that particular land. So these kinds of concepts, that is surveying and mapping, were prevalent back then in order to use the geodata to prevent the losses of land being demarcated from the flood. Okay, so as and when we progress, we came up with better and better techniques. So we started using sophisticated tools. We started using what are called as and when the land telescopes developed, the binoculars developed, we started mapping the area. We started taking in the projections. The concept of surveying and mapping, it became more and more established, and we had more and more accurate methods to do so. but still there was something that used to lack in all these methods. Can you guess what it is? Take some time, try to guess what did these methods lack, because when we try to map all these things, we do it from the perception of front eyes, like the binocular eyes that we have. So the problem that with the mapping system that we used to have is we didn't have the bird eyes view. That is, we weren't able to get the projection, the top projection of the entire area. So transferring these data into documents, actually, though we used to use mathematics and geometric angles and get very much right with respect to all these plottings, they weren't very accurate. So an accurate bird eye view is what was lacking with respect to the survey and mapping techniques that we used to have in 16th, 17th, and 18th century. So it continued up till 19th century until satellites took over in the mid of 20th century with the launch of Sputnik 1. So as I was talking to you all about the importance of having a reference system, right? So whenever we talk about a particular place or a particular location, it is essential that we have the location and the reference with which we are trying to speak of the spot with, and what is the relation between the reference and the location. So in order to do so, we came up in the 20th century, we came up with this concepts of latitudes and longitudes. So as all of you would have learned it in your geography classes, we have latitudes ranging from 0 to positive 90 degree in northern hemisphere and 0 to minus 90 degree in the southern hemisphere. These latitudes are the parallel lines, that is the horizontal lines with respect to our equator that run from North Pole to South Pole. So, and we also have the longitudes. Equator will serve as the reference line for latitude. When it comes to longitude, there was a lot of debate as to what particular longitude had to be set to 0 degree. But we settled upon one particular longitude which is passing through the village of Greenwich in London. So this is called as the 0 degree longitude, and this is the prime meridian. We also refer to this as the prime meridian. So from 0 degree, starting from 0 degree, we start moving to, if the longitudes that keep moving towards the east, in terms of degrees, we measure them in the positive angles. It varies from 0 degree to 180 degree. And again, from the prime meridian, if we start going towards the west, the angles are being measured in negative. That is, we start getting minus 30, minus 60, minus 90, and it goes all the way up to minus 180 degree. So we use these longitude to come up with the time zones as well. So as you all are aware, we all the countries, we don't have the same timings being followed. So if it's 6 o'clock in the morning in India, it would be 6 o'clock in the evening in America. So something like that. So in order to set the time zones of a particular country, we use these longitudes. But how are they related to geotags? Coming to that point, most of you would be familiar with this concept of Cartesian geometry in your schools, right? We use the x-axis and the y-axis, and we use this reference axis to locate a particular point in a plane. So similarly, the surface of the earth, if we consider that as a plane, we use the longitude and the latitude data to identify a particular spot on earth. It is the most convenient way to identify geodata, and very precise and efficient as well. So imagine this, you all write such lengthy addresses to your houses, right? You write your house number, you write your street number, you write which locality you are in, which city you are in, which state you are in, which country you are in, and then again you have to insert the PIN code as well. So instead of having so many lengthy addresses, we can simply insert a latitude and a longitude. So these both are basically two numbers. Latitude is one number, longitude is one number. And this is unique to each and every spot on earth. So if I'm seated right here, right now, right? So this particular point also has a particular latitude and longitude. Within my house itself, I can have multiple addresses. So the entire data is being reduced into 2 points. That is two essential data, latitudes and longitudes. Instead of asking a person for their address, their door number, their street number, their locality, we can just taken these two information, latitudes and longitudes, to mention to retrieve the geotag data as to where they are in. So basically, most of the geotag data that are geotag metadata that are encrypted with the images or with the videos or with the audios that we use, they're usually these latitudes and longitudes. So once we have these latitudes and longitudes, we'll be able to identify those particular spot on Earth from the reference line. What are the reference line? With respect to longitude, it's the prime meridian, and with respect to the latitudes, it's the equator. So we use these two reference lines to identify our particular spots. So how is it going to help us? Then, okay, Tejas, you were talking about latitudes and longitude and saying that they were much more efficient than having addresses. Then why don't we use it in to send addresses, send letters to people? Why are we using such lengthy addresses? Well, the thing is very simple. For us humans, it is very hard to interpret these numbers. So if I say that I'm located at 23, let's say 12 degree north and 79 degree east. So in order to process this particular data, it would be very difficult for us humans. Instead, if we say that I'm located in the city of Bangalore and I'm within Bangalore, I'm situated in so and so locality, we'll be able to relate to these places much easier than the numbers. So we find words much more comfortable than the numbers, but computers find it very easy to interact with the numbers. So that's the reason we have latitudes and longitudes data being encrypted for the images for the geotags, and we have our own addresses being written in words. Next, the revolution with respect to geotagging, that is labeling of places, happened with the launch of global positioning system, satellite system, somewhere in the 1970s and 1980s. So this concept by the US military, it basically intended to obtain data of particular, let's say, an object or military equipment that are trying to invade into their own country space. So in order to monitor all these things, they came up with this concept of what is called as the global positioning satellite system. So we'll be able to track all the people, all the places with a receive tracker placed in it. So we'll be able to accurately predict in what particular position they are in with respect to the surface of Earth. However, this particular service was not made public until 1983. So it was in 1983 there occurred an incident wherein one of the ships which belonged to a different country happened to enter into the water space of Soviet Union. So misinterpret the military of the Soviet Union, they misinterpreted that to be an enemy ship, and they had happened to shoot it down. So it was by accident. They were lost, and they didn't know that they were entering into Soviet Union space. So on facing this particular incident, it was deemed by the US government that had the GPS service been made accessible throughout the world, this incident would not have happened. People would have known at what particular spot they are. So, entering into the restricted spaces, restricted domains would not have occurred. So that is when the GPS services were made public in 1983. But mind you, this particular GPS service that was made public in 1983, it wasn't as good as what we have right now. It doesn't mean that the satellites weren't good. They were very accurate. They were very good with respect to detecting, identifying a particular spot on the Earth. But it was the government's decision that the publics they didn't need any accurate data in order to find a particular spot on Earth. So this particular location tracking on Earth was made very fuzzy. That is, the accuracy of tracking your location, your current location on the surface of Earth was made very fuzzy. So if I'm located at this particular point, the tracker which would show my position on the screen can show my position within a radius of 100 meters. So I'll be visible within any point within the radius of 100 meters. So the visibility data was kind of fuzzy so that people wouldn't misuse it. So this was the kind of thought behind making the data fuzzy in 1983. However, this particular restriction was also removed in the year 2000, and the GPS was made available as we know it, as we are using it right now, with improved accuracy with respect to position predictions. So, as these the locations using GPS systems were made public, many private companies started pitching in to start using these data into building in systems like tracking people, showing people the navigation systems as to from which place to which place, how to come up with the shortest way to travel from one place to another. So they started coming up with these applications which would enable navigation in a simple fashion. So that is when Google Map also originated, and Google Maps are much popular amongst us. So ever want to travel to a particular spot, don't know the route, you just enter the starting point and enter the ending point. Google Maps will find you the best route, and there you go. You just start heading towards the location. So we find that it's just at the fingertips that we enter the locations, and we forget our route and we go away. But it requires so many geotags being placed all the way along for the Google Maps to come up with these points. So we have the geotag of the starting location, geotag of the ending, the destination. So after having these two tags, the Google Map also has to process the data as to what are the traffic situations, and what are the other conditions, road conditions, and what is the shortest map. All these things have to be processed backstage, and after these processing that we are enabled, we get the routes that we actually see. So there's a lot of efforts that the computers are, the systems are taking in to send us the route that we get within seconds. Amazing, isn't it? So I invite Abhiraj now to tell us more about how geotags are encrypted within photos and videos and audios. Abhiraj, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Tejas. As Tejas has given us a brief intro about the history and the present of GPS, now we are going to learn how it is used today. Okay. Geotagging in photos. One of the two methods can be used to geotag the photos. The first is capturing GPS information at the time of photo is taken, and second is attaching a geo coordinates to the picture after the photo is taken. Uh, in older days, when the GPS was new, there was some problem. Means the in older mobile devices and the cameras, the GPS system was not inbuilt. So the user have to add the GPS coordinates of the picture which they have taken after the image is taken with the another software. But nowadays, as our technology improved, we have the inbuilt GPS system in our mobile devices and the cameras. So we can have the locations of the picture which we have taken. This is very useful. We can, with this system, we can find the location of every picture which has the location data inside it. Can we have next slide? Okay. Uh, Geotag in audio and video files. Audio or video files can be geotagged via metadata, audio encoding, overlay, or with the companion files. Metadata records the geospatial data in the encoded video file to be decoded for later analysis. Audio encoding involves the process of converting GPS data into audio data, such as modern squawks. As we have the inbuilt GPS system inside mobile for the photographs, we have same system for the inbuilt GPS system for the videos inside our devices, mobile devices, and the cameras. With this, we have the every location of the video stored inside a file of video. Can we have next slide? You can see here when the user started a video from one point to the another point. The in the inbuilt GPS system started taking a different GPS point on the route. These are pointed on the route here, and these points are encoded in the video files. Encoded into the video files in the form of metadata. What are the metadata? Metadata are the set of data which contains the information about the other data, such as location and other information.
Abhiraj, sorry to interrupt you. I guess your audio is very low. Could you speak louder?
Okay, is it good now?
It's better. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tejas. Okay. Oh, we were talking about the metadata. What is the metadata file? The metadata is the data which contains the information about the other data, such as the location and the other information about the videos, which are stored into the files of videos. Thank you, Tejas.
Okay, thank you, Abhiraj, for that wonderful information on geotagging audios and videos. As Abhiraj was explaining, the thing is that when we look at a particular video or an audio or a particular photo, we try to associate those images with a particular spot. Let's say we have this flower called as Rafflesia, and it is kind of indigenous to a particular island. So we don't find these flowers anywhere else in the world. So they kind of serve as a geographical identification tag, not geotags, but geographical identification tag. But if you were to search for that image on internet and find out its particular spot, if you just had the image and you wanted to look at what particular spots it were to be available, and you don't know that flower's name, the easiest thing that could have been done is that image being encrypted with a particular geotag location. So let's say I come across with some rare flora or fauna at a particular spot. So I immediately take that particular snap and I tag the location where that particular flora or fauna was found. And that if that gets circulated to a particular scientific organization which is studying on the environment or the habitats of those flora and fauna, they find it very easy to keep a track of the endangered species list, or also even sometimes it so happens that there are few animals that and plants that are very hard to spot, and people, when they take these images and when they tag those geolocations, it becomes very much easy for scientists and researchers to locate these locations and study more about these plants and animals. So and also when we look at these exotic locations or movies, or when we come across a scene wherein a particular chasing happens, and when all these things are happening, the movement of a particular vehicle are also sometimes encoded within the video. So as in when the video is being played, we can use an artificial so softwares, like many softwares are available, wherein which one, if we encode the starting point of a particular video, if this is the so and so location, it's proceeding in so and so direction. So based upon the pixel inputs from the video, it starts tracking these objects on the map. So all the geotag data that are encrypted within this video are being extracted into map to be further used for other applications. So now the most popular one, geotags are extensively used on social medias. You all must be very familiar with geotagging along with tagging your friends on a particular cafe or a location. So I now invite Sneha on the screen to tell us more about geotags on social media.
Yeah, and let me take you all to the virtual life of human beings, that is about the social media. So let me start it from the beginning of this era, which is Facebook. So when you're looking for some person on the Facebook, say let it be your family friend or your personal school friend or a college friend or any person you're looking for on social media, you will go to the search bar and you type down their name, but then you get a number of results with the same name but a different people, and you want it to be shortlisted to the person you need. That is where the filtration method comes in, where geotagging has a vital role in the filtration method. And the basic methods which Facebook used to filter the people is that through the city, state, country, and then the workplace. So you type down the city, and then the result you're looking for will be analyzed and shortlisted into a candidates. And then when you look for the workplace, like the place they are working for or in the educational institute they are in, so that will give you another analyzed shortlist of the candidates you're looking for. And coming to the Instagram applications of geotagging, which is very much trending right now. And the thing is that when you see your friends keep going on rides and keep traveling all around, and they keep mentioning the places they have been traveled through in their stories, which has the geotagging application there. So tapping on the location will be taking you into a virtual map on Instagram itself, which will give you the exact location of the place they are in, or the travel blog pages which you follow on Instagram. They keep tagging many different locations in their Instagram post. So again, tapping them will be directed you to another virtual map where you can find the exact locations. Even when it comes to your profile activities, when you go to your settings and look for the profile activities, like how many people have reached your profile or the places your profile have been reached to, you will find there like a number of people from certain location is been looking through your profile from these many numbers. So that is how the geotagging helps in the Instagram purpose. And also many other social media like Snapchat, it could be, or the Twitter, everything undergoes the same geotagging application. Coming to the job finding or the educational institutes finding applications like LinkedIn or any other uh, softwares which help us to find the education places, the very first thing you will be asked is about the location. Like when you enter the page, they will ask you about from which location you need the institute to be picked from, or from which location you want your workplace to be. So you type a location, like let me say I type Bangalore in my location, and then the application will help me to find out the workplace, like the companies or the institutes which are in and around the Bangalore. And this is how the geotagging takes place, a vital role in social media.
Thank you, Sneha, for that wonderful information on geotagging on social media. So yeah, it's not just social medias and these other platforms that geotags are used in. They're also used in remote sensing data that we get from the satellites. So you all see, you all would have observed about, learned and observed about how these remote sensing satellites work, right? So from the keynotes that we had on the first day and on the second day, you all would be familiar with how remote sensing works. So yesterday we had a workshop on how remote sensing satellites work and how the images are processed using these remote sensing data by Marcelo. And yes, yet again in these remote sensing data, we again have all these data being encrypted with a geotag. So when a particular satellite tries to map the surface of our Earth, so they try to scan and send the data in the forms of pixels. So all these pixels, they don't make any sense if the pixel coordinates are not known. So let's say it's like you having these jigsaw puzzles which are scattered all over the place. Only if you know what particular piece of the puzzle goes where at which particular spot, you'll be able to make your generate the whole image. In order to do that, again, all these pictures which are being captured by the remote sensing data, they also need to have particular coordinates being encrypted with them. So we have applications of geotags there as well. And the applications from geotags using the data from the satellites, it also again is used to vary the bandwidth of the RGB, that is the red, green, and the blue bandwidths, in order to extrapolate few particular features, like exaggerate few particular features of the surface. In order to do that, again, the data loss must be prevented. So these geotagging of these pixels would help us again in keeping all the pixels organized. Also, there is a concept called as excuse me. There's also a concept called as geofencing. So in geofencing, this is quite new concept that we have for the past few years, wherein let's say I have a particular device which is connected to the GPS location tracker, and this particular device, I don't want it to cross a particular boundary. So what we can do is, using geofencing applications, we can set the geotags for the boundaries that have to be marked, that is fence the area. So if this particular device steps out of this boundary or steps inside this boundary, the user will be alerted that the device has stepped out of the boundary or within the boundary. You all must be wondering how it's going to help, right? So I'll explain it to you with a very trivial example. So most of the goods that are placed in shopping malls, they are equipped with what are called as RFID tags, radio frequency identification tags. So if those tags are not built, like if that particular item is not built, if you're trying to exit through the exit door of the shopping mall, there will be an immediate alert sent to the owner of the shop or the shopping mall or the shopkeeper, and they'll catch hold of you for not billing a particular item. So this works in that way. Like if the device tries to step out of this particular geofenced zone, the owner will be alerted that the device has stepped out of the geofencing fencing zone. So you might have to take whatever actions that is required. So how is it going to help? Let's say you have a particular vehicle, and this particular vehicle is being used by you, or you have given it to one of your friends, and you want to track it. So you have placed a geo tracker in it, and you basically you don't want to keep tracking your vehicle all the time, looking at your phone wherever your friend wants to go. So what you can do is, you can let's say your friend would have borrowed your vehicle, saying that use it within the city limits. You can fence the city limits and place a geo tracker within your vehicle, and once you turn it on, you need not keep monitoring where the vehicle keeps going within the city. So all you want to be alerted is whether the vehicle steps out of the city or not, whether your friend has lied to you or not. So if your friend takes your vehicle to go out of the city, you'll be alerted immediately as the signals are being sent outside the geofenced area. So that is how geofencing works, and people are starting to use it even in the workspace right now. So instead of having biometrics to log in and log out for a particular workspace, if the workspace is very large, what we can do is we can fence the area, and the mobile entry, the GPS trackers in your phones, they can be connected to these geofencing applications. And once the employee enters into the geofenced area, that is when his attendance would start, and the time he leaves the particular geofenced area is the time that he goes out. So that is how the employers are trying to keep track of their employees. It is an upcoming technology which is not being widely used yet, but it still is very beneficial in many ways. Geofencing is very beneficial, so we are yet to explore its true potential. As we are talking about geotagging, it is also relevant to talk about privacy issues regarding geotagging. We see that most of the people on social media, they keep checking in wherever they are. They keep tagging themselves using geotags that they're in so and so spot at so and so time. So it becomes very easy for people who stalk them, or people with ill intentions, to check, to stalk them, or to keep a track of their activities. So it is advised that geotagging of private data must not be done on social platforms. Geotagging would help us to locate information that are worth sharing in the public domain. So if you're using geotags for private data, be very careful that you might be in danger, as these are being exploited, to keep an eye on you. So be very careful as to what data you're subjecting into geotags. And also, now we come to a point for wherein we're going to be demonstrating how to geotag a new place on Google Maps. So we have broken it down to 4 simple steps. The first thing is using your Google account. You have to open Google Maps and log into the Google Maps. Second thing, open the menu tab of the Google Map, which will be located, if you are using either on phone or on the web screen monitor, it will appear on the left top corner. So open the menu and scroll down, and you will find that there will be an option called as add a missing place. And when you select that add a missing place, that pops up a box which will ask you to type the name of the place and ask you to describe about that place and mention where that particular place is located. So basically, Google Maps allows this particular option, this particular feature, to make it a better place, because there are so many places in and around us. They keep, and also there are so many cafes and malls and shops that keep changing, that keep coming in, and they keep going out, that it becomes very hard for the company to keep track of all of it. So what they did is they gave it to the public domain as for us, the people who are using it, to help each other out. So it is very beneficial that way, wherein if you try out a new cafe today and if it's not updated there on the Google Map, you can go and use this particular option to tag that particular location, write your review there, so that you can have more people visiting that place. Okay, now I'll be demonstrating it to you as to how to use these uh, geotagging options in Google Maps. Okay. Now I have logged into the Google Maps. This is the Google Maps page. So if you can see, you have the menu option here. If you select that, there comes a list of a very long list of options. So in that, I'll be selecting add a missing place. So once I select that, it asks me to add a name. So right now, before that, I'll select this update location on map. Right now we are in the city of Bangalore, and I know of a particular shop near Lalbagh, which is not there on the Google Maps. So what I'll be doing is that I'll zoom in to this particular map, select the location where I have to update that particular name. So it's somewhere here. So once I'm done, I'll select done. Okay. Now I have to add a name for it and enter what kind of category it is, whether that's a landmark or a shopping mall or a lodging, restaurant, school, cafe. It gives you a list of predefined options there. If you don't have any of these things fitting it to your description, you can add your own category and say that it belongs to this particular category. And once you're done adding the name, category, and the location, there are optional things as well. If it is a business place, that is, if it is a store, you can add phone number, hours of visit, and any other pictures of the place that you have. And once you're done, this particular send option will be activated, and you can select that. Okay. So yeah, that was a demonstration with respect to the Google Map. So we have an activity for all of you today. So what we want you to do is that look for an undiscovered place in your city, which is of historical importance, or look for a cafe or a bookstore, which is very popular and still not updated on the map. So what you can do is search for those places, take a screenshot of the Google Map without the name being added or tagged in there, and you using your Google account, add in the information, and after submitting it to Google, the review will be taken and the place will be made public. Also take a screenshot of that and club these two images, post it on your social media and tag us there, stating geotagging workshop by SSERD WSW2020, and we'll be happy to look into it. Hope this geotagging session helped you all in getting more idea about what geotagging is and what are its applications, and we'll be opening the platform now for the Q&A session. Okay. We have few top questions here. Can we further have a new update in Google Maps that would locate the robberies going on all around the earth? Okay, this is a nice idea though, but it once the robbery occurs, the person who is robbed might have to update that I was robbed in so and so place, adding the geotag. So we can have it, we can do it, but yeah, forward this idea to the Google company and let's see whether that's possible or not.
Tejas,
Yes, An. Yes, Neha.
I have an answer to this question. If that person is having an update of SpaceX with him,
Correct.
yeah. So if he has an update of SpaceX with him, SpaceX is trying to, upgrade a brain chip for the humans, right? So probably if that has come into an existence, then we can easily figure out the
Add
robbery.
them. Correct. We can also add a geotracker to them. Perfect. Okay. How do we see the street views? Okay, Google Maps, it actually gives you various options. You can have the satellite view, you can have the surface terrain view, and you can also have just the plain view. So there are three viewing options on Google Map. You can switch amongst them. Google positioning system, show a position. If we are out of the earth, can it show a position even in space? Okay, there is this one question by Abhishek Sharma. And the question goes like so: would global positioning system, the GPS, show our position if we are out of the earth? Uh, Actually, we have what is called as Google Mars, Google ISS, and Google Moon, but then they're not actually, for tracking. So first, in order to answer this question, you have to understand how the GPS system works. So in the image during the presentation, if you all had observed, like let's say we have a surface here, and a person or an object that has to be tracked. He is here, so receiving the signals from the satellites. So I have multiple satellites from the GPS constellations that are trying to measure their position with respect to this tracker. So based on this, there will also be a reference baseline tracker as well. So the position with respect to the base, the known point on the surface of Earth, and the GPS constellation satellites will be known. The distance from this particular tracker and the other point on the Earth will be estimated, and based on the signal positions from all these constellations, we require a minimum of four to six satellites to give an accurate position of the person on using the GPS constellation. So based on these four satellites that are trying to capture the image of this particular person with respect to their vectors, we'll be able to figure out at what particular point the person is on the surface of Earth. So the satellites will all be facing towards the face of Earth. So basically, if you go outside the Earth, the satellites facing will not be towards you. So in that way, yes, GPS system won't work outside our planet Earth. So, but yes, if we one day colonize Mars, we can have a GPS system set up there as well, and we'll be able to monitor ourselves there on Mars too. Just like how we have Google Maps here on Earth, we'll have the Google Maps there on Mars. Can Geotag track a mobile which is lost? Actually, yes, you can track a mobile which is lost. There are something called as IMEI numbers, which are unique to these mobiles, IMEI numbers. So if the mobile is activated or if it's used again using any other systems, you can actually track them. And the location device settings have to be turned on for the phones. How is 3D image of a place taken? Okay. Yeah. Regarding 3D imaging of a place, well, it is basically in order to prepare a 3D image, you have to have the three data points for a particular three metadatas for a particular point. Let's say I have a particular point in space, so I should know in x coordinate what is its distance, in y coordinate what is its distance, and in z coordinate what is its distance. So length, breadth, and depth, the perception of all these three things have to be inserted into the image in order to create a 3D image. So in order to do that, we have 3D scanners that take coordinates of, let's say I have a water bottle here. So if I scan this water bottle in the 3D using a 3D scanner, I'll be able to locate what are the point locations with respect to these three axes, and creation of 3D images possible that way. Okay. So we'll be ending the session now. Thank you all for joining in for this particular workshop. I hope you all learned how to use Google Maps for geotagging your places and explored what are the possibilities of using geotags and its wide applications that are coming up in our society. And I urge you all to look in for places that are wrongly named on Google Maps and correct them, so that Google Maps it becomes a better place for all of us to use in, and also add in new places that you find in and around your city which are not updated on Google Maps. So, and also don't forget to tag us there. If you do this particular activity, take a screenshot, brag about it, also tag us. We'll be very happy to look into all the activities that you have done. Thank you for joining in. This is Tejas KV signing off.